She was a woman of faith with a heart of gold.
She was an angel, sweetest person you can ever meet.
He was a born-again Christian, eager to serve God.
He was going to be a pastor, and he was doing all these religious things.
Together, they dreamt of bringing the gospel to the masses.
They were doing a record label, a Christian rap label.
But on the brink of success, fate took a bloody turn.
This was the most horrifying scene that the Akron Police Department had ever seen.
It was really hard to wrap their head around just the sheer brutality of this.
As shocking as the crime is, the alleged motive is beyond belief.
Temporary demon possession. That's what I would call it.
He was saying that she had the devil inside of her.
He believed the Bible said the only way to kill the devil was to chop off his head.
April 3rd, 1998. It's a cool Friday morning in Akron, Ohio, a mid-sized city steeped in Midwestern values.
Akron's a very close-knit community. Everybody kind of knows everybody and they all look out for each other.
Which is why Joseph Wilson has asked his landlord to check on his neighbor, 43-year-old Lilius Landrum.
The tenant called the landlord and said he had been smelling an odd odor in the home.
Lilius, you in there?
I haven't seen him in a few days.
Lilius lived with her partner, an aspiring music producer named Tony Smith.
You think they might have went out of town?
Yeah, maybe.
When there's no answer at the door, the landlord uses her key to check inside.
Lilius!
Tony!
The landlord and tenant thought that they were going in to find some trash that hadn't been taken out.
Lilius!
Everything looked pretty normal.
Tony!
When they reach the kitchen, the odor becomes overwhelming.
I think it's coming from the basement.
They opened the door leading to the basement, and that's when they noticed the 2 large garbage bags. They assumed that's where the source of the smell was coming from.
As they descend the stairs, they quickly discover the wretched smell isn't garbage.
They had seen a bloody mop and some blood, and there were bloody footprints.
But little can prepare them for the horror waiting at the bottom of the basement stairs.
Oh my God! Oh my God, Lilius!
Akron native Lilius Landrum was grounded by faith and family.
She was very close to her siblings. She was raised in a very God-fearing family. They went to church, and she was just a loving, warm-hearted person.
Lilius was very spiritual. She was very active in her church.
She was always helping people, being involved. Well, she would give you the last of anything she had just to make sure that you were okay.
She was a big sister, mother, grandmother, cousin type. She was such a good person. Everybody loved her.
Though she'd always felt the love of God and her family, romantic love had eluded her.
In her 20s, she married a man named James, but that relationship was marred by tragedy.
Lilius was pregnant with twins, but unfortunately she lost the babies, and that may have played a part in the disintegration of her marriage.
He just kind of left.
Devastated by the loss of her children and her marriage, Lilius fled Akron for Hollywood in search of new beginnings.
Lilius loved movies, so her desire was to become an actress.
She was doing roles for Give Me a Break and Family Matters. She did some pretty cool things, rubbed shoulders with some pretty cool people in Hollywood.
But Lilius's brush with stardom proved as short-lived as her marriage.
She ended up coming back to Akron because her mother and her father fell ill, and she came back to take care of them.
Back in Akron, Lilius took a job at a mortgage company and became heavily invested in her church and community.
She was involved in getting to know people that have problems, the alcoholics, drug addicts.
She would definitely want to bend over backwards to help people down on their luck.
Hey, I got the paperwork that you want to know.
Oh, thank you, Miss Landrum. God bless you.
No problem at all.
It was another testament as to what a nice, kind, and caring person that Lilius was.
She just liked to get into the trenches and just get to know those people and love them and try to get them to a better place.
But she also started reaching out to inmates in prison. So she would write letters, she was giving them encouragement and support.
Among them was a former inmate named Richard McBride.
Hey!
Richard was in Lucasville, which is a maximum security prison here in Ohio that houses the worst of the worst criminals.
Lilius and Richard corresponded often. She felt a bond between the two of them, and they grew closer.
Lilius had a soft spot for people that she thought she could help, so she actually allowed him to live with her.
But Lilius's selfless act of kindness caused her friends some concern.
I just remember pulling up one day and seeing a man on the front porch, And I said, wow, Lilius, who is that? And she said, oh, that's Richard. He just got out of jail. I said, okay, I guess you know what you're doing.
After Richard moved in with Lilius, rumors began to fly that the two might be more than just friends.
So I can see you at home?
All right, I'll see you then.
I asked Lilius, I said, so are you guys together? And she said, oh, no, absolutely no. I'm just helping him. That's all I'm doing.
She'd been devastated by love in the past, so naturally, she was a bit guarded.
By 1996, the hard shell Lilius had placed around her heart seemed to be cracking when she started another new chapter in her life.
She started working for Kent State University. She would clean their dorms, so she had 2 jobs.
So then in the morning, she worked at the mortgage company. After Lilius would leave the mortgage company, and then she would work all evening cleaning the university.
I would literally drop her off in the evening when we were done working at the mortgage company, and there would be a van waiting there to pick her up, to take her to Kent State to clean all night.
It was at this job that Lilius met the man she'd prayed for, 21-year-old Tony Smith.
He was like a janitor there.
Oh, hey, let me help you with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tony was a young man wanting to be a minister.
Before turning to the ministry, Tony had been a rapper. And much like Lilius, he'd had a fleeting brush with stardom.
Remember the group Bone Thugs and Harmony? Actually, Tony was a part of that.
When Tony found God, he turned his back on gangster rap, but not the music industry.
He was doing Christian rap.
And he was also attempting to promote different shows.
He decided to start his own music label called Shock the World, strictly dedicated to Christian rap.
Hey, did you want to hear that new track I was telling you about?
Yes.
Drawn to both his faith and his talent, Lilius felt she'd found the perfect partner to spread God's word.
She wanted to join forces with him to try to do something and help people.
This is so good. That bridge you added made all the difference.
Soon, Lilius and Tony were busy booking performance venues, arranging studio time, and recruiting Akron rappers like Eshbin Chapman for his fledgling label.
Tony, seeing that, I had some talent. At that point, we got to like an artist-manager relationship to where he wanted to bring me under his wing, take me on as one of his artists, and try to get some things moving.
Before long, Tony and Lilius were spending so much time collaborating on projects that she invited him to move in with her.
Richard moved on, and Lilius felt safer having another man back in the home.
It wasn't really made clear to me when Richard left the scene, but I just assumed that he found placing or he found something because she had told me that it was just temporary.
So you good? You all set up?
Yeah, yeah. Good. Thanks again for letting me stay. I really appreciate this.
No problem. It's going to be good. It really is. I'm so glad you're here.
She was very excited. It seemed like a very exciting time in her life.
Just as with Richard, Lilius's friends soon wondered if she and Tony were more than just roommates.
I asked her, is this romantic? And she told me, no, he's so much younger than me.
Lilius was in her 40s, so there was a 20-year age difference there.
Which made their big announcement in the fall of 1997 that much more shocking for the couple's friends.
She said, Tony and I got married in Michigan.
None of us knew. We had no clue. We had no clue that they were dating, seeing each other, liked each other, nothing.
We was all shocked from it. But, if that's what your soul, if you feel like that's your soulmate, go for it, you know what I mean? And it was nothing but positive, cause she was such a good person. Everybody loved her.
With their love finally out in the open, Lilius and Tony poured all their energy into producing the first album for their up-and-coming record label.
We was just in the studio recording.
Tony was passionate about music. He wanted the best material to come out. If it was something good, he'd be like, hey, that's good, but let's get something better.
Lily, she did put everything into the business. It seemed like her main focus was just on her company.
In the spring of 1998, Tony was preparing for his huge showcase. He had gathered a lot of local artists, but also some big-name artists. And in his mind, this was going to be his big break.
Outkast was supposed to be at this show, and a couple other people was supposed to be at this show. And we were supposed to be having a major deal on the table.
Everything was going really well for Tony and Lilius. His record label was about to take off. They were in love. Life looked really good.
But on April 3rd, days before their big showcase, something has gone horribly wrong.
The neighbor had noticed a smell. He contacted the landlord, and they both went down to do a check to see where the smell was coming from.
The tenant and the landlord realized there was blood actually trailing down into the basement. They follow the blood trail, and there they find a woman's body.
Mercy! Oh my God, Lilius!
She was on her back with her arms out, with a bucket by her feet.
The landlord and the tenant backed out of the home and immediately called 911.
When first responders descend the basement stairs minutes later, they make a chilling discovery that takes the gruesome scene to a new level of terror.
They move closer and realize she's been decapitated.
Let's call Major Crimes.
They actually found Lilius's head in the bucket.
Lilius Landrum and Tony Smith were a devoted couple with dreams of launching their own record label.
Lilius had her talents, he had his talents, and then when they met each other, they realized what they could do together and what an impact they could make.
But on the afternoon of April 3rd, 1998, a gruesome discovery proves those dreams have come to a violent end.
After discovering Lilius lying in a pool of blood, the landlord and the tenant contacted the police.
First responders discovered she'd actually been decapitated.
Her head is in a bucket laying at her feet.
This scene was absolutely horrific. A severed head in a bucket, blood everywhere, a decomposing body. This crime was unlike anything that Akron had ever seen before.
Shaken by what they found, uniformed officers call for backup.
Everyone really wanted to start to make sure that they could catch whoever this killer was, because this person was very dangerous.
When detectives arrive, they approach the scene carefully, starting from the outside.
They identified a car parked in one of the spots behind the unit. The neighbor confirmed that the car had been there for days.
Does that car belong to either Lilius or Tony?
I don't think so. I never seen this car before until a few days ago.
When detectives run the plates, they discover the car is actually registered to Tony's friend, Eshbin Chapman.
He was the main artist off the label. Like, it was really, everything was built off of him.
But where is Eshbin? And why is his car outside Lilius's home?
It seems odd that his car would be parked out front of a crime scene. So detectives put out an APB for him.
But that's not the only unusual evidence left outside the home.
Detectives, there doesn't seem to be any signs of forced entry, but I did find this note in the mailbox.
It says, Elizabeth came by, please give me a call. And it was also accompanied by a phone number.
It's clear somebody'd been looking for the couple, but there's no way of knowing how long this note's been there.
Detectives jot down the number and make their way inside.
There's several suitcases just inside the front door.
It appeared as if, in fact, someone were going on a trip. There were men and women's clothes packed in there.
Nearby, detectives also find Lilius's purse.
There was no evidence that this had been a robbery of any type.
So how did Lilius's decapitated body end up in the basement? The scene offers detectives a few telltale clues.
Everything looked pretty normal until they got to the kitchen, and things were a little bit in a disarray.
They noticed ladies' slippers that were askew, an earring, and there was blood on the floor.
These could be indications of a struggle, leading detectives to believe that the attack on Lilius began in the kitchen.
Detectives theorize that after the initial attack, Lilius's assailant had dragged her to the basement.
There was blood down the stairs leading to the basement, and there were bloody footprints in that blood.
Not just shoe prints, but actual bare footprints, which could help identify the killer.
Police cut out the stairs as evidence in hopes that eventually they'll be able to compare it to the person who actually committed the crime.
Lilius's body provides additional clues.
She had been there for quite some time and was starting to decompose and mummify, and her skin had actually begun to peel away from her body.
Not far from Lilius's body, detectives make one final discovery.
The police found a serrated kitchen knife with an 8-inch blade.
Looks like our murder weapon.
Yeah, I think so.
However, in all their searching, there's one thing missing.
They couldn't find Tony. He was nowhere to be found.
Like he just vanished and didn't take any of his belongings with him.
Is Tony another victim that they need to be looking for? Or is he somehow involved? Is he the killer? They're not sure.
While detectives put out an APB on Tony, word of Lilius's death spreads to family and friends.
I was just watching the news and I saw Lilius's home and I saw that there was a murder there. I called her mother and her brother answered. I said, I'm seeing things on TV. That's her home. He said, yeah, that's her home.
I got a call telling me, and I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
When word reaches Lilius's parents, they quickly rush to the scene and offer detectives a window for when the murder could have occurred.
Lilius' mother tells detectives that the last time that she saw Lilius is on Tuesday, March 24th, when she had dinner with Lilius and Tony.
Was there anything odd about their behavior that night?
No, not really, but come to think of it.
Her mother says Lilius seemed to be normal, but Tony was acting a bit anxious.
The night that they came over for dinner, he started rambling. He prayed over the food and it took so long for him to pray.
Lilius's mother recounted how Tony's food became cold because he was praying for so long it had to be reheated.
She finds it hard to believe that Tony would be responsible for something like this. She never heard Lilius complain about their relationship.
But if Tony isn't responsible, where is he?
Police wanted to find him, number one, to make sure that he was alive and had not been murdered as well. But he's also someone they really needed to talk to as he was close to the victim, and they weren't sure whether he had something to do with the murder or not.
Police pull Tony's criminal record, and they do find that he has a small stint for marijuana possession, but no violent offenses that would make them think that he would be responsible for something of this nature.
Hoping for more insight, detectives turn back to the crime scene.
They're looking for anything in the house that could either point to his whereabouts or give them an idea of what happened to Lilius.
Police find a journal that included what appear to be rap lyrics, musical notes or tracks that were connected to Eshbin Chapman.
Eshbin? That the guy whose car is out back?
Yeah.
What detectives find scrawled inside the notebook determines their next step.
Some writings appeared to be rap lyrics that said off the head.
Detectives investigating Lilius Landrum's gruesome murder have just uncovered evidence that may point to her husband Tony Smith's friend and frequent collaborator, Eshbin Chapman.
Police find Eshbin's car parked behind Tony and Lilius's home. They also find a disturbing message written in a notebook they believe is Eshbin's.
The journal had what appeared to be rap lyrics that included the sentence off the head.
Not wasting any time, detectives secure a search warrant and immediately descend on Eshbin's home.
Police, search warrant! Get down, right now. All the way down.
They raided my mother's house because that's where Eshbin stayed at the time.
I was in fear. It was just crazy. It was just crazy.
With the home clear and Eshbin cooperating, detectives ask him to answer a few questions.
Is this your journal?
Nah, I've never seen that before in my life.
Eshbin claims he has nothing to do with the murder. He swears that the writings are not his, and he's not sure who it belongs to.
I had no clue. And scared at the same time because no one knew what was going on.
I have no idea where Tony is. I've been looking for him for more than a week.
Which was unusual considering they were getting ready for this large showcase.
Tone and Lilius both wasn't answering the phone. They kind of just disappeared.
This was the time where we were kind of finalizing some deals, trying to finalize the paperwork, and we didn't hear from them.
If Eshbin hadn't heard from Tony or Lilius for several days, why is his car still parked outside their home?
His car had broken down at Lilius and Tony's, and he'd left it there until he could go back to fix it.
Eshbin also tells police that Tony had been acting strange in the days prior to his disappearance.
The last time I saw him, he seemed paranoid. Said there were some people looking for him.
I was kind of fearful. At one point, I was thinking, what if there's some type of person out to get us?
To be honest, I think he could be on the run himself. Could have been murdered himself.
While Eshbin's theories raise new questions for detectives, they know one thing for certain. Eshbin isn't Lilius's killer.
When detectives compare Eshbin's foot to the prints they found in Lilius's blood, they're not a match.
With Eshbin cleared, detectives are back at square one. But when they receive Lilius's autopsy the next morning, they learn startling new details about the crime.
Based on the condition of the body, they estimated
that it was probably about 9 days that her body had been in the house before she was found.
2 of her fingernails were broken, and they assumed that a struggle must have occurred.
The official cause of death were knife wounds to the neck.
Though the report fails to truly capture the horror that Lilius endured.
Lilius was still alive when the decapitation occurred. The serrated kitchen knife that was found at the scene was the murder weapon.
Just think about the length of time it would take with a kitchen knife to saw someone's head completely off to sever it from the body.
This is an act of intense determination and anger.
Police suspected that this was in fact someone that she knew.
With Tony still unaccounted for, detectives decide to take a closer look at his record.
Tony'd grown up in Columbus, and he certainly did not have an easy childhood.
Children's Services had to be involved with the family.
Tony was actually raised by his grandmother at that point. Tony still got involved in drugs and gangs.
Previous to meeting Lilius, Tony Smith had a few minor run-ins with the law related to low-level offenses such as marijuana possession, but nothing major.
When detectives follow up with Lilius and Tony's friend, Elizabeth Morris, she says Tony had given up that life when he found God.
Elizabeth was the woman who left the note and her phone number in Lilius's mailbox.
She knew them both through their job at Kent State.
I can't imagine Tony hurting Lilius. He was really dedicated to Christ and his music, and he just loved her.
This was a guy who wanted to be a minister. He was putting all his time and money into using hip-hop as a vehicle for change.
Elizabeth explained to detectives that she went looking for Lilius, but couldn't find her, so that's why she left the note.
This was around March 29th, 5 days before Lilius's body was found.
And you're sure Tony couldn't have anything to do with this?
He just doesn't strike me as a killer.
A sentiment Lilius's friend, Donna Simpson Gwamba, echoes when she meets with police later that afternoon.
Tony was a really level-headed guy and jovial and easygoing. As far as Tony and his background, his past, I knew that he was a bad boy. I knew that he had been involved, I think, with drugs before, probably not running with the right crowd. But he's turned from that, and now he's going to help people out.
She just couldn't imagine him being involved in something like this.
But when detectives mention the gruesome nature of the crime, Donna is suddenly certain.
It came out that she was decapitated, and I immediately said, oh, well, I know who did it. I know who did it. It was Richard.
Richard McBride, the ex-con who Lilius had taken in prior to meeting Tony.
He would bring up things that were very gruesome and alarming, things that really you would not discuss with someone else.
He witnessed a murder in jail. Apparently there was a riot. Somebody was decapitated, and it was very traumatizing to him.
Richard had fallen off the radar when Tony came into the picture. Perhaps he was jealous.
I immediately thought, well, it has to be him.
April 4th, 1998. It's been 24 hours since a neighbor found Lilius Landrum dead in her Akron, Ohio home. And her friend, Donna Simpson Gwamba, has just given detectives a new person of interest in their investigation.
Donna tells detectives that she believes Richard McBride, an ex-con that Lilius briefly took in, is behind the murder.
Donna told police that while in prison, there was a prison riot, and at that time he witnessed someone being decapitated. Richard obviously suffered from PTSD.
And it really caused people concerns that he discussed these gruesome things so often.
He obsessed over this person getting their head cut off. It's too much of a coincidence. It's got to be Richard.
Detectives are inclined to agree.
He certainly might have had a motive because he had been living with Lilius.
It seemed like just as soon as Tony came to the scene, Richard was gone.
But there's more to Richard's relationship with Lilius that has Donna concerned.
Apparently there was some friction when Tony started working with Lilius.
Tony would come over to the house and they would work on different youth programs together. But Richard was not happy with this. He became very jealous.
What's he doing here again?
I told you he's my friend.
I want him out.
What do you mean you want him out?
him out.
This is my house.
Man, look, bro, what she invited me?
I don't care if she invited me.
Get out.
Richard eventually instigates a huge argument with Tony. And it got so bad that Lilius told Richard to leave.
She had kicked him out at Tony's request. So it was possible that he was enraged because he had been kicked out of his place to live, and he was mad and came back and got revenge.
I think he just snapped and did that to Lilius. I said, he probably killed Tony too. You might find him in the back of a trunk somewhere.
When detectives pull Richard's prison record, Donna's story appears to check out.
Detectives confirmed that Richard had been an inmate at Southern Ohio Correctional Facility in Lucasville when the riot occurred.
Detectives spend the next 24 hours tracking Richard McBride down.
The fact that Richard had seen someone being decapitated and would speak about someone's head being chopped off, that certainly was a red flag and made police look at him as a suspect.
Unlike Tony, Richard has a violent felony on his record. The only reason he got out of prison early was because he was willing to testify against some of his fellow inmates who participated in the riot.
When detectives finally get Richard into the interrogation room, he's adamant they've got the wrong guy.
Whoa, I had nothing to do with this.
Richard claims that until detectives told him, he didn't even know Lilius was dead.
He's genuinely devastated by the news, too. Even though they had a falling out, Lilius had been there for him in a way that nobody else had.
I was down in Cincinnati at my brother's. You can call him if you want.
He actually has an alibi for the timeline in which Lilius was murdered.
Richard's alibi isn't the only thing that rules him out.
His footprints didn't match the footprints found at the scene.
With Richard cleared, detectives doubled down on their search for Tony.
The manhunt for him was pretty intense. The police were actively looking for any sign of where Tony could be.
Meanwhile, they broaden their investigation to other aspects of Lilius and Tony's life.
Police reach out to the couple's pastor to determine if they confided in him about anything that was going on.
But when they sit down with the pastor, they get some news they weren't expecting.
Lilius and Tony weren't actually married.
Lilius had separated from her first husband years ago, probably 20 years prior. Even though she was separated from her husband, they never got a divorce.
Lilius was making efforts to divorce her husband. She did reach out and have her minister trying to help her.
She found her husband in Alabama or Louisiana. She called him and said, let's go ahead and get a divorce.
According to Lilius's pastor, that's where things had gotten complicated.
Apparently, her husband didn't want her to try to divorce him.
Still, Lilius's pastor claims the setback hadn't deterred the devoted couple.
It was a commitment ceremony because that's the best that they could do right now. And it was just something just between them and God. Who needs paperwork and who needs divorces? We're just going to tell God that this is what we want. We're going to be together forever.
The news of Lilius's first and current husband sends up red flags for detectives.
Detectives start to wonder if he's connected with Lilius' murder in some way.
But the pastor has another theory.
Do you think Lilia's husband had something to do with her death?
No, I think it was some people that Tony was mixed up with.
The pastor told police that Tony had actually confided that he believed that someone was after them due to his past in Columbus and the people that he owed money to.
Tony indicated that people were upset with him because he had not made enough money or paid the right people, and he had to flee in order to protect his personal safety.
He was running from something, but we don't know what.
Detectives attempt to follow up on the pastor's claims, starting with Lilius's estranged husband.
It's a long shot, but detectives do need to rule him out.
Detectives were able to confirm that he indeed was in another state at the time the crime took place, so he was quickly ruled out as a suspect.
Next, investigators attempt to contact Tony's grandmother in Columbus.
She's the only other person in Tony's life that they haven't spoken to yet.
At this point, they're desperate and just exhausting all leads at their disposal.
Finally, on April 7th, 4 days into their investigation, detectives catch a break.
Tony's grandmother informed police that Tony had contacted her.
But that's not all.
His grandmother lets them know that, in fact, he's in Columbus in jail.
April 7th, 1998. Detectives investigating the brutal murder of Lilius Landrum finally have a lead on the whereabouts of her boyfriend, Tony Smith.
When detectives get in touch with Tony's grandmother, she tells them that he's in a Franklin County, Ohio jail following his arrest in the Columbus suburb of Whitehall.
Tony's grandmother tells detectives that she last spoke to him the day before his arrest on March 25th, when he called her from Akron.
He calls her at 3 o'clock in the morning, asking if she can wire him some money, just enough for a bus ticket. She tells police that she talked to him that night. He wasn't acting like himself. He kept telling her that they're after me, but he wouldn't give her any more details.
His grandmother wired him money, and he used that to buy a bus ticket to Columbus.
After speaking to Tony's grandmother, detectives reach out to their counterparts in Whitehall, where they learn the bizarre nature of Tony's arrest.
24 to 48 hours after the murder, Tony makes a couple of illegal U-turns. That gets the attention of the Columbus police, and they chase him.
Dispatch, I'll be 1025 on a green Jaguar. Looks like he's running. Go ahead and start another unit this way.
He continued to make illegal traffic maneuvers, continued to increase his speed.
According to the officer, Tony then led police on a wild chase across Columbus's eastern suburbs.
He even drove down the wrong side of the roadway.
He leads them on a 40-minute chase. They have to put out spike strips. 2 of his tires blow out, and he's still going.
He ended up in a field. He ended up striking a tree.
But that still doesn't stop him. He jumps out of the car and runs.
They finally catch up to him, and he's arrested.
In addition to the charges for the multiple traffic violations and running from police, it turns out the car Tony was driving was stolen.
So he's down there in jail, and Lilius's body is not discovered until the 3rd. And it's not until a couple of days later that the connection is made. There was a little bit of a disconnect at first because it was the Whitehall Police Department that had ended up chasing and arresting Tony and not the Columbus Police Department.
Galvanized by this new information, detectives make the 2-hour drive to Columbus to speak with Tony face to face.
They're very, very interested to hear what Tony has to say for himself.
Police sit Tony down to try to get a statement, but Tony doesn't even mention anything about Lydia's murder.
Instead, Tony wants to talk about the hitmen he claims are after him.
Why would they be after you?
I can't talk about that right now. Not until I talk to my lawyers.
Once he asks for an attorney, the police stop questioning him.
Tony's sudden silence had detectives wondering if Tony really had gotten mixed up into something illegal that had led to Lilius's death.
While detectives can't talk to Tony, there is one thing they can do.
In the meantime, would you mind taking off your shoes and socks?
What for?
You need to get your footprints.
The request provokes a sudden reaction from Tony.
The detectives go to take his footprint, and he does an about face. Wants to talk again.
Can I say a few things?
Tony tells them that if they listen to his story, that he'll give them the rest of what they want to know about Lilius.
After they get his prints, Tony immediately launches into the story of how he met Lilius in the first place.
We started out as friends, but then things got a little serious.
They made a decision together that they should be married.
But her divorce wasn't finalized. And her husband wouldn't sign the papers.
And you two are already living together?
Yes.
He felt that they were living in sin. And even with the ceremony that they had, it wasn't good enough. It had to be that they were married and then she had to be divorced. It doesn't seem like that was a big deal to her. It was only a big deal to Tony.
Especially since Tony wanted to become a minister.
How can I be an example to my congregation if I'm living in sin?
Tone was actually close with God, but sometimes you can overdo it a little bit with the scriptures.
He was really dedicated. He really seemed like he was focused. He was what they call being on fire for God.
Meanwhile, Tony says he was under tremendous pressure.
They were about to do a large showcase to showcase his artists from Shock the World, which included my brother Eshman Chapman. And he also had some large groups that was at their primes. So really, Tone had a lot on his shoulders at the time.
According to Tony, it soon became clear that he couldn't do it all.
I had to call in a few favors.
Tony tells police about his past, that he owed a lot of people money.
He said he was involved with the music industry and he owed people money for shows that he had put on that had not made enough money.
I got tied in with people you don't want to be in too deep with.
Tony tells detectives that his enemies started harassing them. He said that he and Lilius became afraid to come out of the house, so they had planned to run away.
What Tony's telling detectives appears to fit with what they already know.
You have witnesses saying that Tony was talking about some people who were after him. You have the packed suitcases by the door. Then you have Tony fleeing to Columbus.
Okay, but what happened, Tony? Why didn't you end up leaving town?
I can't believe it! Why her?
In the interview room, Tony becomes very emotional. He's rocking back and forth. He's crying.
Detectives figure they're finally going to solve the mystery behind Lilius's grisly murder.
But what Tony says next takes detectives by surprise.
She's in on it too. They're all against me. What? She tried to poison me.
Akron police detectives are finally face to face with Tony Smith, the main suspect in the vicious murder of Lilius Landrum.
Tony and Lilius lived together, but he'd been conspicuously absent during the entire investigation.
In fact, when Lilius's body was found, Tony was already in a Columbus, Ohio jail for driving a stolen car.
Tony was actually taken into custody within 24 to 48 hours after the murder.
Now, 12 days later, on April 7th, 1998, detectives sitting across from Tony are taken aback by what he has just told them.
He said that on the night of March 25th, Lilius had tried to poison him.
How did you know? I could tell as soon as I ate it.
After dinner, Tony said he started to feel strange, and he was convinced that he was poisoned.
But why would she want to poison you?
Because God's got big plans for me. And he wanted to stop them.
He? The devil!
He was saying that Lilius was the devil, that he thought that Lilius was evil.
Detectives aren't quite sure what to make of all this.
So you thought she was the devil?
Why do you think I cut her head off?
Detectives are shocked. He just comes out and admits that he's the one who did this to her, as if decapitating somebody was the next logical step.
Tony tells him that he read in the Bible somewhere that the only way to kill the devil is to cut his head off.
But he wasn't actually sure what verse in the Bible it was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He told police that after he realized he'd been poisoned, he got a knife from the kitchen and called for Lilius.
Lilius!
He said that when Lilius got into the kitchen, he took a sock and began to strangle her.
Devil. He fought. And he fought. And he fought. But I never let go.
According to Tony, Lilius struggled for several minutes before losing consciousness.
He said after her breath left, he proceeded to cut her head off.
Afterwards, he quickly tried to clean up, put all the evidence in the basement, and then got out of there as fast as he could.
It's an incredible story, but is it the truth? Detectives aren't so sure.
Detectives can't help but notice that he only decided to confess after they asked for his footprints.
He had to know it was only a matter of time before he was charged with the murder. And he was really very cleverly trying to set up an insanity defense.
But Lilius's alleged possession by the devil is just the start of Tony's wild delusions.
Another one of Tony's stories was that he wasn't himself when he was committing this horrible crime, that he wasn't doing it, that someone else was, that he could see himself doing it, but it wasn't him.
I was so scared and out of it. I couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't.
Tony told police that whatever he ate messed up his ability to think straight.
Detectives don't believe it for a minute.
At no time did he describe throwing up. At no time did he describe going to a doctor. Tony's accusations that he had been poisoned were absolutely unfounded.
Detectives realize everything Tony has said up until this point was just a farce, including all the stuff about his so-called enemies.
And when Tony's footprint proves to be a match for the prints in Lilius's blood, detectives charge him with murder.
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I thought, oh, they got it wrong, because I had no clue that he would turn into a monster like that.
I believe the weight of the world was on him. I believe he just cracked under pressure.
I do believe that in this case, the devil made him do it. To think that someone actually decapitates another human being is so horrifying and disturbing.
However, Tony's court-ordered psychiatric evaluation says otherwise.
He tried to pretend that he was overcome by some compulsion that he couldn't control, but he was found to be sane, which means that he knew the difference between right and wrong when he murdered Lilius.
After digging into the couple's finances, detectives believe that rather than religious fervor, It was finances that triggered Tony's rage.
They had moved in together to try to save on expenses and manage their money. However, they just weren't able to make it with the cleaning business and with their recording business and promoting the gospel singing. That was not really providing a decent income for them.
He really didn't have the money to pay the bills, so a lot of things were getting cut off.
I believe that their electric was turned off or the water, and so I'm sure that it was stressful.
We were just some hungry artists trying to make it.
Meanwhile, Lilius had put everything she had into launching the record label and ministry for Tony.
You need to get a job.
What investigators believe is maybe Lilius was questioning him. She was questioning his prophecies and had pointed out to him that his prophecies hadn't come true.
Her patience was starting to wear thin.
One more bill is nothing to this whole pile. You can write this down. Take your pen and write down this other bill right here. Take your...
We believe he became very upset and enraged, and that's why he killed her, and that's why he severed her head.
Given the savage nature of the crime, will a jury agree?
This was completely insane. It had to be, because you just don't flip out over your electric being turned off. You get mad, you get in spats, and you leave, and whatever, come back together later, but you don't kill somebody over this.
Ultimately, the case never makes it to trial.
The circumstances surrounding Lilius' murder were horrifying. And because the pictures would have been extremely graphic, the details of the murder would have been extremely graphic, the family decided they did not want a trial.
He ended up entering a guilty plea to murder.
In exchange for pleading guilty, Tony receives a sentence of life in prison with a chance of parole after 15 years.
His first shot at the parole board was back in 2013. The parole board did not release him. However, he will be eligible again in 2022. And at that time, our office will oppose his release.
You do something like that, you should never be able to get out.
Still in prison for murder, Tony shows little remorse for what he did to Lilius.
I was a correction officer, and he got transferred to the prison that I worked at. I seen him one time, and he couldn't really look me in the eye.
His friends are still struggling in the aftermath of his crimes, too.
For the most part, everybody that was on that record label was still here in Akron. And waiting for another chance, you know? We had record deals after the fact. It was like R&B record deals and stuff like that. Never no more Christian rap labels.
I started my record label to try to pick the pieces up. And even though we recorded good material, Esham didn't 100% feel confident in the music, probably because of his previous experience with Tone. So that's why he went off and ventured off to, to go to school to become a nurse.
I just stopped doing music and just started working just regular job, regular old Joe.
Perhaps what has haunted Lilius's loved ones the most is the fact that Tony took advantage of the quality they'll always remember her by, her selfless spirit.
She didn't deserve this at all. She would have done anything for anybody.
She reached out and helped people that were down on their luck and less fortunate. And Tony was one of those people.
I'm sure she was trying to help him because she probably was in love, really in love.
And in exchange for her help, he brutally murdered her.
A single mom finally finds her Prince Charming.
Every time she would talk about him, you would think that she was describing a fairy tale.
But for this starry-eyed young woman, there'd be no happily ever after.
We found them on the floor. Looks like they've been shot.
All three had been shot in the head.
This rocked the core of a small community.
Why would someone kill a mother and her two young children?
Detectives believe they know the answer.
He was dealing drugs.
She and the kids were just collateral damage.
But it will take a shocking confession to reveal the horrible truth.
You were in here crying over them kids, man. I know you love them.
The nature of it, you don't really ever forget.
Evil lurks everywhere.
We got text messages, man. I need you to be honest with me.
November 15th, 2009. Night has just fallen in Dale, South Carolina, a rural crossroads deep in the Lowcountry between Charleston and Savannah.
You'll see a few houses which are maybe a few miles from each other. Lots of back winding roads, dark marshy swamps. There was a sense of seclusion.
Around 7 p.m., this remote community's sense of seclusion and security is permanently shattered.
911, where's emergency? My daughter's on the floor bleeding. My grandson on the floor bleeding, both of them.
Mr. Mullen had taken his 2 older grandsons out for the day, and he returned that evening to drop the boys off with their mother, Janine.
No! No! Go back! Get out! Get out!
What happened? What happened? We don't know. We just got back.
Through tears, Frank explains he just found his 34-year-old daughter, Janine Mullen, and her sons, 4-year-old Walfredo and 2-year-old Matthew, bleeding on the floor of their home.
Malik and Marcus, 2 older boys, were with their grandfather when they arrived home. They're very, very scared.
Oh, lady, please, there's blood everywhere. Get in.
He's frantic. He's panicking. He's begging for help.
You can hear in the call how stressful that situation was.
Are they breathing? I don't know. I don't think so. Please hurry. Please hurry. Please hurry.
I've been doing this going on 27 years now, and it is without a doubt one of the most heart-wrenching things you'll ever hear.
34-year-old Janine Mullen was a Boston transplant who'd fully embraced her adopted southern hometown.
Her family ended up in Dale, South Carolina when she was just a teen.
She may have been raised up north, but everything about her resounds Southern charm. The way she talked, the way she walked, the way she dressed. She had the makeup thing going on, and she had to make sure her hair was in place.
Though she'd lived on her own for years, Janine remained close with her tight-knit family.
She grew up in a 2-parent family, and she thrived off of that. She had this kind of relationship with her father that every little girl would want to have. She simply adored her mother, and her parents, were just her guiding torch. They taught Janine hard work pays off.
But it was her family's strong Christian faith that most impacted Janine's life.
Them boys getting bigger and bigger. We keep feeding them, they keep growing.
They were devout Christians, and they attended church regularly. They dedicated their lives to making sure that they were good to each other and they were kind to people. Those Christian values were with her always.
Everyone that knew Janine knew her as being loving and selfless.
Everyone loved Janine. If you were having a bad day and you ran into Janine, she made it feel like everything was just going to be all right.
All of which prepared Janine to be a wonderful mother.
She had a few relationships that fizzled out, but they gave her 3 amazing sons, Malik, Marcus, and Walfredo.
Janine was a doting mother.
Her boys came before she did. She loved her boys. She was so proud of them and proud to say, you know what? These are my children. This is what I've made.
Though the boys' fathers eventually drifted out of their lives, they never lacked for a male role model.
Her father stepped in for her children. Lots of times it was there to pick up, those pieces.
Come on, Mom, it's your turn to play.
No, let your mama eat. Look, matter of fact, I'm gonna beat all of y'all.
Even though her family's safety net was strong, Janine took the responsibility of providing for her boys very seriously.
There was always that sense of, I'm going to do what it takes to make sure that they get what they need.
She worked a full-time job, so it was tough, but she was able to do it with the support from her parents.
It was okay to know, hey, my parents are here, my family's here if I need them. But Janine worked multiple jobs. Every single one of her jobs involved working with people and shaping people and making sure that they were taken care of. It was all about being a public servant. And she put her heart and soul into everything that she did.
But it was at her job as a teaching assistant where Janine found her true calling.
At the time, I was her assistant principal. She had a fond love for children. She could just make a child do anything that you asked them to do without blinking an eye. Her goal was to become a certified school teacher. She said, I know that teaching doesn't pay a whole lot of money, and that's not what I'm in it for. I want to make a difference.
After years of working odd jobs just to pay the bills, Janine finally landed a job in an area that she was passionate about. She was very excited about the future.
This love radiated from her heart for children, and she was an advocate for children.
Working as a teaching assistant, it opened her heart and mind up to new possibilities.
Janine's co-workers weren't the only ones who noticed her energy and enthusiasm. Her joie de vivre also caught the eye of 24-year-old Ernest Days.
Feeling a little hot for teacher.
Don't make me feel old.
Ernest was 7 years younger than Janine.
At first, Janine was nervous the age difference was too great, but she and Ernest just clicked.
She described how generous and kind he was.
I think you missed one. Better brush up on your multiplication
What,
skills.
bud? Gotta get back
back to work.
She was just wooed by his ability to make her laugh.
Ernest also impressed Janine with the attention he paid her sons.
The thing with Janine is if you don't like my children, you don't like me.
But that wasn't a problem for Ernest. He seemed to love those boys.
For Ernest, Janine provided the first loving and supportive home he'd ever experienced.
Stability was something that Ernest was lacking as a child.
Ernest never met his father.
Ernest's mother got hooked on drugs. Sometimes she would leave her children all alone for hours, sometimes days on end.
There were stretches when they wouldn't have water, they wouldn't have power, sometimes they didn't even have food. And when Ernest was 8, he was pretty much raising his sister on his own. He would feed her in the morning, get her ready for school, things like that.
Though they'd come from worlds apart, it felt as if the two were meant to be together.
Things were good. She just felt as though this would be a great relationship for her.
But just a few months into their relationship, Janine's initial concerns about their age difference resurfaced.
She knew intrinsically and extrinsically that at some point in the game, some maturation issues would begin to unfold, and they did. He was not ready to settle down, not ready to give up those things that would garner you to be a father figure or a devoted husband or a provider. She wanted to marry, and she knew that she wanted someone who would at least, if not at all, be devoted to the family.
Over the next few months, Janine and Ernest repeatedly split up, but their passion always brought them back together.
There was just this attraction. She had so much love for him.
She wanted to make it work.
They had a bond, and over time, it seemed like they'd really become a family.
In the spring of 2007, Janine and Ernest solidified their bond forever.
They had a son and named him Matthew.
Children brings people closer together.
It also lit a fire within Ernest to be a better provider for his family.
He picked up odd jobs in the past, but he hadn't had a career.
He enrolled in truck driving school to get his commercial license.
He moved into her home and they started raising the kids together.
This felt like the start of a new beginning.
Unfortunately, this new beginning came to a horrifying end on the evening of November 15th, 2009.
No! No! No!
Janine's father stopped by the home and found the blood-soaked bodies of his daughter and her 2 youngest boys.
Lord have mercy, what in the world happened down here?
He thought they were all dead originally.
Walfredo was found in the kitchen, lying on the floor, blood pooling around him. As he went further into the house, he found Janine and Matthew in the house as well.
But amidst this unthinkable carnage, Janine's father uncovers a sign of life.
One of them moving.
Which one is moving?
The baby.
The 2-year-old, the child, is still alive.
After raising 3 sons on her own, 34-year-old Janine Mullen was thrilled to be bringing up her youngest boy, Matthew, with his father, 27-year-old Ernest Days.
Life was good. She had a sense that she was going in the right direction.
But now it appears that for all its promise, Janine's life may be over.
Janine's father called 911 after coming inside and finding Janine and her 2 youngest sons on the floor, covered in blood.
She's not moving.
I don't know that the baby got the gunshot wound there to me.
Though it seems at least one of Janine's little boys is still alive.
The baby is crying?
Yeah, the baby's crying.
When first responders arrive on the scene, they work quickly to save young Matthew.
He was shot in the head, but was clinging to life.
The entry wound was at the top left of his head, and it had exited the right just below his ear and his jawline.
Matthew was immediately taken to the hospital. He was transported to Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. That's the closest trauma center.
Unfortunately, there's little to be done for Janine and her 4-year-old son, Walfredo.
Janine, Walfredo, they were both found to be deceased.
When detectives arrive, they attempt to get a statement from Janine's father, which proves to be a difficult task.
He was clearly in shock. He was almost in a panic mode.
Janine's older sons, Malik and Marcus, had gone over to the neighbor's home.
I know this is a very rough time, but even the slightest detail you can give us can be important.
He was the 911 call, and he was the one that found them, and so he knew a great deal about the situation.
Janine's father explains that he'd been over at Janine's house just a few hours earlier, and everything seemed fine.
It was Walfredo's birthday.
She was trying to get ready for the birthday, which is the reason that Mr. Mullen came by and picked up 2 of the children to give her the space to get done all the things that she needed to get done for the day.
The party was supposed to be at 7 that night at a restaurant 20 minutes away in Buford.
Did you notice anything unusual?
Yeah, I mean, the van was gone, but she was going to get it serviced.
She said she was going to get it later with the help of a friend, but according to Janine's father, she didn't specify who that friend was.
According to Janine's father, the van was back in the driveway when he returned to drop off the boys a little before 7.
The doors were open to the vehicle and the purse was inside.
Puzzled, Janine's father knocked on the door, but got no response.
They found the door unlocked, which was a little bit strange.
Janine!
Janine's father says he never imagined the horrors he'd find once he entered the home.
No! 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 Move! Go back! Get out!
I'm so sorry about that. The officer will take care of you.
With Janine's father increasingly distraught, detectives cut the interview short and release him to comfort his 2 oldest grandsons. They then turned their attention to the crime scene.
As we walked into the kitchen, Walt Fredo was laying there in a pool of blood. He had a single gunshot wound to the head.
It was his birthday. I remember vividly the birthday cake being in the living room.
Little Walt Fredo had just turned 4.
That's a day that family will never forget. That day is forever etched in their brain and in their hearts.
As detectives continue through the home, they find Janine on the floor of the master bedroom.
She had what I believe to be was a single gunshot wound to the forehead.
There was stippling. The gun had been pressed literally right up against her forehead.
It was just a horrific scene.
Based on the condition of the body and the statement provided by Janine's father, detectives are fairly certain the crime was committed within the last couple of hours.
It appeared that the crime scene was fresh, but it didn't just happen. It seemed like it had been probably several hours. I didn't notice any lividity or rigor mortis set into either one of the bodies at the time of arrival. They were still warm to the touch.
But who had targeted this young mother and her 2 innocent children? As detectives survey the scene, they find no indication that the murders are a byproduct of a robbery gone awry.
This is a house that's very difficult to get to.
There was no forced entry. There was no indication of robbery.
There were still valuable items throughout the house. The van wasn't wrecked. The purse was still in place.
With no shell casings at the crime scene, detectives suspect either the murder weapon was a revolver or the killer made sure to collect the casings before fleeing the scene.
The house was pretty devoid of any evidence.
Our initial thought was that potentially somebody had fled in the area. We searched all around the house. All the roadways leading up to the house are dirt roads, which are very good for finding shoe impressions, running foot impressions, things of that nature. We also searched the surrounding wood line.
There were a few bloody footprints, but that appeared to be from first responders and Janine's father.
Searching the surrounding area fails to produce any additional clues. Desperate for any viable leads, detectives head to the only other residence in sight, the home of Ellen and Robert Morris.
They were hoping Janine's boys who were there would be in a condition to speak with them. But they also thought the neighbors themselves would have information that could be helpful.
We were really close to Janine and the kids.
They were just here yesterday. The day before, her and the kids actually came over to roast some marshmallows.
How late were they here?
Till about 10 o'clock. At least until Ernest called and asked for a ride.
Ernest?
That's her boyfriend. Ernest Dates.
Janine and the kids left to go pick him up.
Did Janine bring him into the house with her?
Oh, I don't know. You have to ask the boys.
However, Robert's wife Ellen says she did see something earlier in the afternoon that could be crucial to the case.
Around 4:30, someone pulled up in Janine's van and got out and went to the house.
Could you tell who it was?
No, they were wearing a black hoodie, so it was kind of hard to see.
Obviously, police wondered if this person could be the shooter.
Once they got inside, you didn't hear anything or see anything?
No, I didn't.
They did not hear any commotion. They didn't hear any gunfire.
So they couldn't be 100% sure that the driver of the van committed the crime. Someone else could have come by between 4:30 p.m. and when the bodies were found.
In addition to the mysterious person in the van, the neighbor's account raises another question for detectives.
Where's Ernest Days?
Hoping for insight, detectives turn to Janine's 2 oldest sons, 13-year-old Malik and 10-year-old Marcus.
Marcus had a real difficult time. He would clearly start becoming upset and could not continue to talk.
However, his older brother Malik is able to fill in some blanks about the events prior to his mother's murder.
He told investigators they had been roasting marshmallows at their neighbor's house the night before, and then Ernest called, and they went to pick him up at his friend Jordan Shaw's home.
And they returned to the residence. The boys went to do their own thing.
Malik says that Ernest stayed the night before the murder, and he was gone the next morning.
He did not see Ernest that morning, and he didn't see him again since then.
After speaking to the boys, detectives make finding Ernest a top priority.
Although it seemed unlikely that he would shoot his own 2-year-old son, they still needed to eliminate him as a suspect. They also hoped he had a lead on who might have wanted to hurt Janine and the children.
Before detectives can get any further, news arrives from the hospital.
Detectives receive word that Matthew is in fact going to survive.
Which is a sigh of relief, not only for the family, but for the detectives as well.
They may now have an eyewitness to the murders.
Just hours after the vicious attack that left Janine Mullen and her son Waltfredo dead, detectives raced to the hospital, hoping to speak with the shooting's sole survivor, Janine's 2-year-old son, Matthew.
The bullet had gone in by the ear, had hit the child's spinal column and bounced through the body, breaking a rib and leaving his body on the right side.
The doctors who treated him at MUSC said it was pretty miraculous, a few millimeters to the left or right, and the bullet that had gone into his head, it glanced off of his spine. Any difference in a few millimeters would have probably severed his spine and killed him. It was a miracle he's alive, but he survived. He was the bravest boy in all of Beaufort County.
Once at the hospital, it's unclear if detectives will ever be able to speak with the victim.
Matthew's been admitted to ICU and is in a coma.
He was in a coma for about 3 days.
With Matthew in critical condition and no other eyewitnesses, they were basically back at square one.
However, detectives can't help but notice that as Matthew's family gathers to pray at the hospital, his father, Ernest Days, is conspicuously absent.
Your son's been shot. How could you not be there for him?
Detectives considered whether that made him a suspect or maybe suggested another possibility.
Especially considering what detectives learn next about Ernest Days.
They returned to the station and ran his name through a database so they could pull up his record.
He had a criminal past. He was a convicted felon.
He had been convicted of a strong-arm robbery, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, possession with intent to distribute crack.
It's a history that detectives cannot discount when it comes to finding Janine's killer.
Janine's murder could somehow be connected to his drug dealing. It could be a situation where he was the target.
And if someone was after Ernest, if he was in hiding or possibly dead, that would certainly explain his absence at the hospital.
When investigators head to the home of Jordan Shaw, one of the last places Ernest had been seen, they don't take any chances.
Officers weren't sure what they were walking into, so they brought several members of the SWAT team just as backup.
Sheriff's office, open up! Sheriff's office! Whoa, what's going on? Ernest stays inside.
Jordan tells detectives that he thinks Ernest is asleep in his bedroom.
Don't move.
When the SWAT team brings Ernest outside, it's apparent he's just woken up.
Yeah, what's going on?
They told him about his son and Janine, and he could barely hold it together.
You don't know who did this?
That's what we're trying to find out.
They asked Ernest if he'd be willing to come down to the sheriff's office to talk about it, and he agreed and came willing.
Ernest was driven back to the station, but detectives still wanted to talk to Jordan.
How often does Ernest stay here?
Sometimes. He gets kind of crowded at Janine's with the kids.
He said that Ernest had his own key to the residence.
Jordan also says that Ernest had been at his place when he got back from work earlier that afternoon.
He told us that he ran into Ernest, who was actually in the kitchen getting some water.
What time?
Around 4:30.
Did he leave?
No.
Police believe that the shooting happened sometime between when the neighbors saw the van dropped off at 4:30 and when Janine's father returned at 7.
If what Jordan said is true, Ernest could not be the shooter.
At the sheriff's office, Ernest's story seems to dovetail with Jordan's.
I never had the van yesterday.
Ernest told detectives the last time he drove Janine's van was 2 days before the shooting.
He also said he was at Jordan's all of yesterday afternoon and into the evening.
Finally, detectives asked Ernest point blank, did you do it? His response was somewhat angry.
Shoot a 2-year-old. He's my own son. Happens all the time. The only son I got. I'm gonna shoot my own son.
When asked if the murders were somehow related to the drug dealing, Ernest seemed to dismiss that idea too.
Yeah, there's a lot of robberies and all
Ernest's attempt to change the subject when detectives brought up his drug dealing left them wondering if he knew more about the murders than what he was letting on.
Detectives may have a way of holding him until they find out.
We were interviewing Ernest. We were executing an additional search warrant at Shaw's house, looking for physical evidence related to the murder, looking for a gun, looking for anything, any clue that would help us move forward in the murder investigation.
Though nothing in the house connects Ernest to the murders, it's not exactly clean.
We found in Ernest's room a large quantity of crack cocaine, as well as a large quantity of money that he had hidden.
It's clear that he was dealing. They found some drug scales. They also found $3,000 in cash that was rolled up in $1,000 increments, and it was hidden in the air conditioning vent.
Which is more than enough for detectives to hold Ernest in custody while they continue their murder investigation.
Ernest was arrested that night for drug possession.
They took the clothes he was wearing and had those tested at our state lab.
We seized Ernest's cell phone from the residence.
They didn't arrest Jordan at the time because all the drugs were hidden in Ernest's room, and it wasn't even clear if he knew they were in the room to begin with.
At this time, detectives are focusing solely on building a case against Ernest.
After hours of interviewing Ernest, he denied having any involvement.
But we felt very confident that he knew a great deal about the situation.
Soon, a new witness will come forward, leaving detectives to wonder, was Ernest's connection to the local drug trade the only thing he was trying to hide?
Janine wasn't the only woman in his life.
November 16th, 2009. It's been 24 hours since the shooting that left Janine Mullen and her 4-year-old son, Waltfredo, dead, and her youngest son, Matthew, in a coma. Already, police have a suspect in custody. Janine's boyfriend and father of 2-year-old Matthew, Ernest Days.
But detectives hadn't charged Ernest with the murders. He was arrested for the stash of drugs they found in the home where he was staying.
When they found him with the drugs, that was the immediate arrest, but he was somebody they were questioning about the death of Janine Mullen.
Ernest had an alibi, but detectives believed he knew more than he was telling them, that Janine's death was somehow connected to his drug dealing.
Just as detectives begin chasing down that lead, Janine's friend, Aline Porter McDonald, comes forward with information that may point in an entirely different direction.
He had other relationships while he was with her. He was seen around town with other women and with ex-girlfriends and with people who he told Janine that he was just friends with. He had girlfriends that he texted on his phone. He had girlfriends that he had closed a relationship prior to Janine and kept going back.
Not only had Ernest been seeing other women, Aline says one of his ex-girlfriends had been harassing Janine at work.
The ex-girlfriend harassed her habitually. At work, away from work. She was a constant distraction in the relationship.
According to Aline, the woman's name is Tasha Reed.
If there was anything that had ever happened to her, I always felt that it would be that ex that would cause harm or put her in some kind of danger, simply because there was this tugging of who Ernest belonged to.
Once, Tasha had even sent Janine a picture of her in bed with Ernest.
Aline tells detectives that a few weeks before the murder, Tasha had taken her harassment of Janine to a whole new level.
It spiraled. I think more so than ever, she became more skittish and more fearful.
He's with me now. Do you hear me?
Look, I don't want no problems. You need to talk to Ernest about
that,
that,
okay? I do talk to Ernest all night. And you know what? You better stop messing with him or you're going to wish you hadn't.
The ex-girlfriend had made threats against Janine's life.
Janine did go to the police and file a report.
But according to Aline, no amount of threats could put a damper on Janine's passion for Ernest.
That attraction was still there, and she still had Matthew, and Janine is all about family, so that wasn't going to keep her away from him.
They pulled a police report Janine filed, and it confirmed Aline's story.
Detectives wonder, had Tasha made good on her threats? Before they can track her down, another call comes in, one that adds further credence to that theory.
They got a call from a man named Darius Grant.
Grant identified to us that he had received a text message from his ex-wife, who was one of Ernest's ex-girlfriends. In the text he received, his ex-wife indicated that she was in hiding.
Grant's ex-wife just happened to be Tasha Reed.
Detectives were thinking Tasha could be in hiding because she's the killer.
It takes almost 24 hours for detectives to track down Tasha and bring her in for questioning.
Turns out she was just laying low at her home about an hour outside of Dale.
We need to ask you a few questions about Janine Mullen's murder.
It's awful what happened to her and her little boy.
We also understand that you had a thing going on with her boyfriend, Ernest.
I mean, I'm not going to deny it.
She had said that their relationship was sexual in nature. It wasn't necessarily a boyfriend-girlfriend type relationship. She said that she did regularly see him.
When did you last see him?
Sunday, around noon or 1 o'clock. He was drinking at Eddie's Disco.
Eddie's Disco used to be a club out in rural Burton area.
What about Janine? Did you ever get into it with her over Ernest?
No, me and Ernest was casual.
Tasha, we know that's not true. We've read the police reports.
Detectives also confront Tasha with a mysterious text message to her ex-husband.
I wasn't hiding because I shot her. I was scared I was next. Ernest is mixed up with some bad people.
She did tell us that she had called Ernest, but she was never able to get a hold of him. She said that she was afraid Ernest may have also been shot.
When detectives ask where she was Sunday afternoon, Tasha has an answer for that too.
Tasha claims she was having dinner at her mother's when the murders occurred.
With no real evidence against Tasha, detectives have little choice but to let her go.
They did get a search warrant for her car, though.
The search of Tasha's car doesn't reveal anything, and detectives followed up with her mom, and her alibi checks out.
They had threads of what happened, but nothing was really coming together to close this case.
Investigators also look into Malik and Marcus's fathers, but quickly clear both men.
They were both not in the state.
And a check into Waltfredo's father is also a dead end.
Waltfredo's father passed away years ago.
However, the case won't stay cold for long.
There were so many twists and turns in this investigation.
And soon, a lead detectives thought was closed will be ripped wide open.
But he was lying to law enforcement the whole time.
And now, Ernest is not lying. You got to figure out what you want to do in this case. And that's totally up to you.
Detectives in Beaufort County, South Carolina are desperately trying to bring charges against the person responsible for the brutal murder of Janine Mullen and her son, Waltfredo.
Janine's 2-year-old son, Matthew, was also shot and was in the hospital in a coma.
A string of dead ends has left detectives scrambling to tie a suspect to the shooting.
Janine's boyfriend, Ernest Days, had an alibi, as did Ernest's side chick, Tasha Reed, who previously threatened Janine.
Ernest was in custody on drug charges, but they still weren't convinced he wasn't somehow involved.
But a cryptic text message is about to break the case wide open. It starts when detectives take a closer look at Ernest's phone and the phone of his friend and alibi, Jordan Shaw.
Both phones had been seized during the drug bust at Jordan's house.
We executed search warrants to go inside Shaw's cell phone and Ernest's cell phones.
As we were going through the cell phones, we had found that Ernest, in fact, did call Jordan several times over the course of several minutes.
5 calls from 6 to 6:18.
Feels excessive.
The rapid-fire series of phone calls between the two men isn't the only thing that seems suspicious.
Take a look at this.
Not only were the timing of the calls within the window of when the crime occurred, according to what they told police, both Ernest and Jordan Shaw were at Shaw's house when the calls were made.
In addition to the calls, Jordan had sent Ernest a single text at 6:04 p.m.
Jordan had replied via text message that he was on his way, which completely contradicted the statements that he gave during the first interview.
But on the way where? When Ernest and Jordan said they were at Jordan's all evening, somebody was lying.
On November 18th, 2009, 3 days since the shooting, investigators bring Jordan in for a second interview.
You're not Ernest, you're not detained, you came in willing, we appreciate it.
Jordan starts out by sticking to his initial story.
Tell me about Sunday, what your routine was. Same thing, got off 4 o'clock, got on about 4:30, got back to the house, finished the house, do what? And I went to the refrigerator, got me something to eat.
Jordan stated that Ernest was at the home. To his knowledge, he was saying that Ernest never left.
Knowing the cell phone and text records suggest Jordan isn't being completely honest, detectives decide to press him.
We got text messages too, and I need you to be honest with me.
Caught in a lie, Jordan's story suddenly changes.
He admitted that he wasn't home with Ernest all evening, that he left his place soon after he got home from work.
You got home you went up about 4:45 to go to races.
Yeah, I got home about 4:30, right.
And then you left the house again at 4:45, roughly. But yeah, probably about that time.
Jordan says he was still out at around 6 when he got a phone call from Ernest.
He just said, "Can you get a ride?" He went down there.
Ernest asked him to pick him up in Dale. While Jordan was on his way up to Dale, he said he kept receiving phone calls from Ernest, which is when he sent the text message, "I'm on my way."
Where'd you get? He was in the road. He was on the main street when I picked him up.
He found Ernest at the intersection of Porches Hill Road and Keens Neck Road, which is a very short distance from the actual location where the murder occurred.
What kind of tie was he wearing? Like a overall jacket. What color was it? I think it was black.
Which is the same thing neighbors told police that the person who drove up to Janine's house at 4:30 on the day of the murder was wearing.
What did he say to you on the way back? He didn't say nothing.
Jordan told us that when Ernest got into the car, he could tell that something was wrong.
He said that he was frantic. He said that he wasn't sure that if he was in some sort of fight or if he was robbed, but he didn't want to know anything, so he never asked Ernest anything.
Jordan told us that he really didn't want to be involved, that he did not want to get in the middle of the investigation, and that's why he lied.
He wanted to separate himself and distance himself from that as much as possible.
I swear to you, that's it. That's all. When he called me, I didn't know what happened.
Is Jordan Shaw now telling the truth? In an attempt to corroborate his story, detectives triangulate Ernest's cell phone.
The cell tower data from the calls Ernest made to Jordan should have been able to pinpoint his location.
There were some tower pings that showed that Days was in the area at the time that the murder took place.
The alibi that Ernest had given had completely fallen apart.
While detectives now believe Ernest is their killer, unanswered questions remain.
Why would Ernest murder Janine and attempt to murder his own son?
As I played the chain of events, it made no sense.
Scanning Ernest's phone records for possible clues, detectives notice another flurry of calls in the hours leading up to the murder.
Janine called him almost 20 times that day. Most of them went to voicemail.
But then just before 4 p.m., Ernest picked up the phone at last. And detectives are wondering if there's something in that call that finally set Ernest off.
Hoping to find out more, detectives head to the Backroads bar named Eddie's Disco.
Ernest's woman on the side, Tasha Reed, says she saw him drinking at Eddie's earlier on the afternoon of the murder.
I'm Detective Frazier. This is Detective Purdy. We want to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
During the canvass, I located an individual named Darnell Walker. He had seen Ernest drink several beers while he was there. When I asked him, he said that he didn't believe that he was drunk.
About 4 in the afternoon, he overheard Ernest on the phone with somebody. It was in a very threatening manner.
What the hell do you want?
The argument got heated.
The individual heard Ernest yelling, "How dare you talk to me like that? You don't talk to me like that."
Based on the timing of the call, police knew Ernest had been on the phone with Janine.
Well, where do you get off giving me demands?
According to Darnell, moments later, Ernest exited the bar and sped off behind the wheel of a van.
He mentioned that when Ernest left, he was driving a van that looked like Janine's.
And detectives think they know why.
It was a pretty busy day for her. It was the 4-year-old's birthday, and she needed the family van. That's what led to her calling Ernest Days over and over again.
It angered him that she would have the gall to call him and demand the van back.
Darnell's story also dovetails perfectly with what Janine's neighbors saw.
4 o'clock, he was observed leaving Eddie's Disco, and roughly 4:30 is when he was observed pulling up to the residence in Dale. It took us about the same amount of time to drive from Eddie's Disco to the residence.
Knowing that Ernest had Janine's van and that she was supposed to take Walt Fredo to his birthday party that day led detectives to believe that he was the shooter.
But as damning as the evidence seems, prosecutors were still worried it wouldn't be enough.
Everything that we had was circumstantial.
What detectives need is an eyewitness, and they're about to get one.
When he came to, he woke up screaming.
It's heartbreaking to even imagine what Janine's little boy had been through.
This whole investigation hinged on a 2-year-old.
Janine Mullen's 2-year-old son Matthew has spent days in a coma, the sole survivor of the shooting that claimed the life of his mother and older brother.
Families come together in a time of tragedy, and someone was at his bedside nonstop, just praying for him to live.
And finally, those prayers have been answered.
Nurse! Nurse!
Detectives received word that Janine and Ernest's son Matthew is out of his coma.
While Janine's family rejoices, detectives rush to the ICU, hoping to confirm that the child's father, 27-year-old Ernest Days, is the shooter.
When they asked Matthew who hurt him, Matthew told them that Daddy did it. Daddy shot him.
But can the toddler's statement be trusted?
Janine's son Matthew was only 2.5, and he's witnessed his mom's murder and been shot himself, so he's obviously been through a lot of trauma.
Detectives and prosecutors move carefully before acting on Matthew's statement, consulting with specialists at the University of South Carolina Medical Center.
There is a trauma center there with doctors who specialize in child trauma. The doctors there told us that from a psychiatric standpoint, that what the 2.5-year-old said was accurate, that Daddy hurt him.
With Ernest already in custody on drug charges, on November 23, 2009, prosecutors bring him back before the judge for a slew of new indictments.
Ernest was charged with the murder of Janine Mullen and murder of Walfredo Mullen. He was charged with assault and battery with intent to kill for Matthew Mullen.
At the hearing, prosecutors announced their intention to seek the death penalty.
In South Carolina, there are aggravating circumstances where they can pursue the death penalty. In this case, there were multiple victims, and that one of the victims was a child under the age of 11.
The tipping point for me was he killed a 4-year-old child, and then to turn that gun on his own 2.5-year-old child, to me is inexcusable. I do not see mitigation there. To me, I see a heinous crime.
I don't even think the death penalty or him dying would have settled the score with me as far as I was concerned.
When Ernest goes on trial in October of 2013, Janine's friend Aline, along with the rest of Janine's friends and family, are determined to see justice served, even if it means being face to face with the man accused of her murder.
Walking in that courtroom, we had to be strong for her and her children because that's what she would have wanted from us.
Prosecutors open the case by presenting their theory of how the crime occurred.
I don't want to fight with you today. Can you please just bring the van back?
Janine called him and tried to get the van back so that she could go to the birthday party with their child.
Prosecutors had contended that after he got off the phone with Janine at the bar, Ernest rushed straight to her house.
But it wasn't to return the van.
You know, you got a lot of nerve.
Me?
A lot of nerve.
You're the one who hasn't been considered here.
What really sent Ernest Days into a rage was that she would have the audacity to call him on the phone repeatedly and tell him that she needed that van back. And I think he reacted to that. Not only was he losing control in the relationship, but he was offended.
You should have brought my van back to my house.
I'll bring your van back when I get ready.
What, Ernest?
When I get ready.
I don't have confidence.
Janine was already frustrated. She had been calling him multiple times.
But according to prosecutors, when Janine got angry with Ernest, he completely lost it.
He was not able to control what he wanted to control. And I think that's really at the heart of this case, and it's the heart of what ended up happening. He executed Janine, he executed Walfredo, and he tried to execute his own 2.5-year-old child. He wasn't successful, thank goodness. But all three of those shots were direct, single shots into the victim's head. One was a contact, but all three of them were execution shots.
He was a monster. He was a raging monster.
But can prosecutors prove it without putting Janine's son Matthew on the stand?
He was a brave young man. He was somebody that had we asked him to testify, he would have.
Luckily, they don't have to.
Through the South Carolina rules of evidence, we were able to put in the testimony what the child said as opposed to through the child himself.
The person who questioned Matthew took the stand in his place.
Prosecutors close out their argument by shining a light on the way Ernest treated Janine behind closed doors.
And some of her friends shared with us a pattern, a history of them fighting.
This wasn't one of those kinds of relationships where I could say to her as a friend, things will work out. The on again, off again was due to emotional abuse, but people on the outside didn't know. It almost seems as though he had her under this spell.
A friend testified at one point that she was on one of those calls with Janine and she heard screaming in the background and the phone went dead.
When it's the defense's turn, they do their best to cast doubt on the prosecution's assertions.
They discount Matthew's identification of Daddy as the shooter, arguing that he was only 2 when the crime occurred.
Ernest's defense team also points to the fact that there was no murder weapon ever recovered tying Ernest to the crime.
We still have not found that weapon.
But will that carry any weight with the jury?
We certainly felt confident going in that he did it, but you want to make sure that you get all that evidence in front of the jury, and you do it in such a way that they understand and that they agree with you, and you never take that for granted. And the jury took basically an hour and a half to determine that he was guilty.
I feel that the prosecutors did a phenomenal job in handling such a case as this one, and they got the desired verdict.
There were hugs and tears from the Mullen family.
But their ordeal isn't over.
In South Carolina, when there's a death penalty, there's a second phase, the sentencing phase. The jury picks between a life sentence without parole or the death penalty.
At the hearing, Ernest's family pleads for mercy.
They presented extensive testimony about Ernest's troubled childhood.
It's enough to stay the jury's hand.
Due to their plea for mercy, the jury stopped short of execution. However, they did sentence him to life in prison without parole.
I'm glad he can't walk on the face of this earth ever again. But I also felt a sense of disappointment because I was pushing for the death penalty, and I didn't get that. But I have to let go, and you think of all the good things that Janine exemplified while she was alive. For everybody who loved Janine and miss her, and everybody who loved Fred and miss him. There's no closure on our side because of that.
Although Ernest's life sentence does offer one small consolation.
Because Ernest is still alive, Matthew has an opportunity to say, I need answers. By God, you're going to give me some answers.
As for Matthew, in the aftermath of the shooting, he has not only survived, but thrived.
He was in a back brace for almost 3 or 4 months afterwards, but he's made a full recovery.
He's flourishing into this wonderful young man, is smart, is able to do things that kids his age can do.
Janine's children were all taken in by her sister.
Janine family has really come together to raise those boys to be fine gentlemen.
Though nothing can bring back Janine or 4-year-old Waltfredo, their loved ones are determined to make sure they didn't die in vain.
These kinds of things are real, and they happen on the back steps of remote places like Dale, South Carolina. And I just want people to know that if you have a friend out there and they don't know where to go, there are organizations out there to help.